Hello and welcome to another episode of Spilling the Beans. I am your host, Chris Bean, and hello. If you're listening to this episode, probably means you made it through the first one, and that's awesome. That's a good sign for me. It means that my content is mildly entertaining, and that's a good thing. That's my hope, is that a lot of people will listen to this and find it enjoyable. And hopefully they can get something out of it that will improve how they live their lives moving forward. So, yeah, that's awesome that you're here. Welcome. You're part of the Bean community. Maybe that's what I'll call the people that listen to this podcast, is members of the Bean community. Bean Nights. Beanites. I don't know. We'll see. But I'll worry about that if I get a unusually, unexpectedly large fan base. But anyway, something I thought I should explain is the intro music at the beginning of each episode. That is music from a song that I composed, and I used a software that my choir teacher in high school gave me. I don't use it very much, but I used it quite a bit for a while, and the segment that you hear at the beginning of each episode, that is the ending of a song I wrote called Kiroloms and Q-Moms. Now, I'm sure many of you have no idea what that even means, but if you're a Mormon and you read the Book of Mormon a lot, you probably understand what I'm talking about. There's a verse in one of the sections in the Book of Mormon where it talks about these animals called Kiroloms and Q-Moms. It doesn't really specify what they do or what they are, but we just know that they had these kinds of animals called Kiroloms and Q-Moms. If I'm not mistaken, they are listed among other animals such as elephants and maybe horses and cattle. I know elephants for sure, but Kiroloms or Q-Moms are with them, so it would seem like they were used in the daily living of these people in the Book of Mormon. And I don't think scholars really know what they were. I think they are widely considered to be like some kind of mammoth, or like, I don't know. No one really knows. But anyway, I thought, Kiroloms and Q-Moms are kind of like a mystery. They sound kind of like a fun animal. Like, personally, I think of like a brightly colored bird as like a Kirolom. I don't know what a Q-Mom is. Maybe like a squirrel. But I thought I could create kind of like a zany, fun track that would be called Kiroloms and Q-Moms, and that was kind of how that happened. So yeah, I wrote it. I'm sure one of these times I will include the entire song in an episode, maybe on like the 10th or 20th episode. When I get that far, it could be like a little bonus. Be like, here you go, here's this in the 10th episode or whatever. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do for that, but anyway, that's where that music came from. And so it's not copyrighted or anything, but maybe I should get to that so I can make some bank. I'm just kidding. But oh yeah, another thing that happened to me recently is I finally saw the movie Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. Now, from my understanding, a lot of you that are listening, you're probably, if you've seen that movie, you're probably rolling your eyes and thinking, oh, great, why'd you waste time to watch that movie? And I kind of understand why people would think that now. I'm a pretty big fan of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Temple of Doom. I think they're pretty awesome movies. They're great films. They're not my favorite though. It's The Last Crusade that I just think is awesome. Having Sean Connery as Indiana Jones's dad, it was the perfect. They got the perfect guy to play that role. It was just really awesome. Very well done. Marcus is funny as usual. Sala is also really funny. The action's pretty awesome. Just great film. But anyway, I had seen all the original Indiana Jones movies, but I hadn't seen Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. So I watched that recently, and a lot of people just say, they hate that movie. It was horrible, and I would say it wasn't a great movie. I wouldn't say it's a bad movie though. Like, I'd say it was an okay movie because there were a lot of things that I really liked about it. People always list the things they hate about it, like Indiana Jones survived a nuclear blast in a refrigerator, which I do have something to say about that. And also the aliens. I agree. I didn't think the aliens were a good part of that movie. The aliens, it's just super weird. It doesn't fit at all, It's just like, I mean, Indiana Jones, he searches for like powers and like treasures that are on the earth, but like having the aliens come in and like that was really weird, I thought. And also like that random guy, Ox, who like he went crazy. He was like the most pointless character. Oh, it appears I'm getting a phone call. Oh man, I really need to block that number. Yeah, I'm recording with my phone. And so I guess if anyone calls me, it'll just happen right here. I don't know if I answer the phone, if they're going to be on the recording. If they do end up being on the recording, I'll have to ask them later on if it's okay if our conversation's worth putting into this video, or I mean not video. Haven't reached that point yet. Like into the episode, maybe I don't know, maybe I'll include it. We'll see. Anyway, back to Indiana Jones. A lot of people didn't like it. I thought the Russians were really annoying. Just like a stereotypical bad guy. It's like, well, we use the Nazis twice. I guess we'll go to Russians, the other evil, like stereotype, bad guys. But there were a lot of things I liked about it. One thing I liked about it was the fact that it took place in 1957, if I'm not mistaken. And so it was cool to see how like an adventure was happening, even though it was like 15 plus years later since like the typical time that we're used to like seeing Indiana Jones. Like there's different technology, different buildings, different types of people. I thought that was really cool. Having Shia LaBeouf as Indy's son was an interesting choice. I didn't hate that. I didn't hate Shia LaBeouf in that role. I actually thought he was pretty good, It was fun to see him interact with Indy, and like how he was able to help Indy on the adventure. The scene where they're escaping the Russians in the cars on Mutt, that's his son's name, Mutt, on Mutt's motorcycle. I thought that was one of the best parts of the film because they were riding on a motorcycle, which is, that's a connection to The Last Crusade, where Indy and his dad are riding in the motorcycle with the sidecar, running away from the Nazis. And I thought that part worked really well. The part where Indy, he's on the motorcycle, and then the car of Russians comes up to the side of them, and, they try to attack him. Indy goes in the front seat, like, kicks the driver, and goes in the back seat and kicks the other guy, knocks him out, and then exits out the back seat window back onto the bike, and they're all still driving. I thought that part was awesome. And like when they're riding the bike through the school library, and that kid has a question for Professor Jones. It's just, that part was really funny. I really like that. And like how Indy gets his son to punch the Soch, and then the Soches and the Greasers all get together and start fighting. Like the Soch is like, get that greaser, and then they all just start having this fight in this ice cream shop, and that distracts the Russians. That part was awesome. I thought that was really cool. I believe John Williams did the score for that movie, which if he didn't, they messed up on that one, because he did the other movies, and the soundtracks are awesome. The soundtrack, it felt like an Indiana Jones movie because of the music. Even though there are a lot of things different, there were aliens and stuff, the music made it feel more true to the Indiana Jones style. I really liked a lot of the sound effects they used. There were a lot of sound effects that you hear in some of the other Indiana Jones movies, the older ones. And that again, it made it feel like an Indiana Jones film. Indiana Jones, he was funny in that movie. He was really funny. He said a lot of things that really made me smile. They made me chuckle. I'd say the first half of the movie is probably what I like the most. And then the second half is like, I didn't really like that much. And then like that weird Mac or whatever, Indy's friend or whatever. It's like, who's that guy? And like, whose side is he on anyway? It's like, I didn't really feel that attached to him throughout the movie. That's one thing I didn't like about it. It's like, who is this random dude? Another thing I liked about it, I don't want to take too much of this episode talking about that movie. There were a lot of things I liked about it, and a lot of people don't talk about those things. One more thing I liked about it was that part of the movie where they show a picture of Marcus and Henry Jones on Indy's desk, talking how they died recently. It brought back feelings of like, those beloved characters. You know, it was good to see them again. So anyway, that's my spiel on that. Something that happened to me recently was I got to visit one of my friends that got home from his service mission in our church recently. He spent 2 years in Armenia or Armenia. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it, to be honest. I've heard it both ways, but he was serving there, and it was so good to see him again. He's one of my best friends of all time. He's one of my best friends. Here's an idea of how awesome this guy is. So, senior year of high school, there were 3 people nominated to be the homecoming king. One was a football player. He was a really cool guy, awesome guy. The second was my friend Nate, who I'm talking about right now. And he was on student council, you know, pretty well known, pretty popular. And then I was. I'm still not entirely sure how that happened, but it was an honor to be nominated to be the homecoming king. And so after the people were nominated, notes were handed out to all the classes. I think it was all the English classes, if I'm not mistaken. And then you circled on each paper, the students circled which person they wanted to be the king or whatever. And before they had the voting happen, my friend Nate, he campaigned for me to win to be the homecoming king. And I thought that was the most amazing thing ever. Just like, who campaigns for other people to be a dance royalty? And I think, and I remember what he told me. He said something to the effect of, I've had a lot of recognition for things. It's time for you, who's really awesome, to have the spotlight for a change. And, you know, that really touched me, you know, because, you know, even then to now, I don't always feel the greatest about myself. And to have the student body vote me to be the homecoming king, it meant a lot to me. It's really been one of the most special moments of my life. I'll remember that. And I remember the feeling of being the homecoming king. Just like there was the homecoming game, you know, where we faced a team that we were probably going to win because that would stink if we lost at our homecoming game. I believe so I go to American Fork. I went to American Fork High School. That's where I graduated. And our rivals, Lone Peak, I believe they lost their homecoming game or something. I can't remember. Anyway, eat that, Lone Peak. No, I'm just kidding. Lone Peak's a fine school. Anyway, I remember at the homecoming game, for the national anthem in that game, me and 3 of my friends, if I can remember correctly, Ryan, Derek, and Woody, we all sang the national anthem, and it was awesome. And then, anyway, I got to wear my homecoming king attire, like my tux and whatever, and I was with the homecoming queen, and we rode on the trucks across the track in front of where the students were sitting, and all the AF. Excuse me, if I ever say AF, I don't mean the meaning of that. You know, like the F word or whatever. I'm referring to American Fork. Anytime I bring up the term AF in a video, I'll try to remember to explain that. I'm talking about American Fork. So anyway, we drove by the AF section, and I remember those people, they were cheering my name, you know, they were shouting like, Chris Bean. And it was really awesome. I will never forget that. Also, real quick, we had to play this, like the homecoming royalty game at the homecoming assembly. And it was like the orange game, the infamous orange game, where you had to stand on these ice blocks and then hold an orange between your mouth and then the other royalty's mouth in your grade. So like I had to hold it with the homecoming queen for the seniors. And we were really good. For some reason, I think we were able to use our hands to like hold the other person. I believe we were able to do that. And she, fun fact about her, she only has one hand. So we did really well. We got second place. We were up there for like 7 minutes straight, I think. And we did pretty awesome. We were the real winners in my book. Or should I say in my podcast. But anyway, back to my friend Nate. He just got back 2 years. Haven't seen him in 2 years. So good to see him again. It's really a miracle that I didn't just start like crying because I love my friends so much. So that I have 3 more that are coming back this week. I've already seen a ton that have gone to the ward for church I go to. Tis the season for reunions, and I'm so excited to see them all. Anyway, Nate is really awesome. He loves Spider-Man. We watched the Spider-Man Homecoming film that came out about a year ago, and he hadn't seen it yet. He loved it. It was just a great experience. I also got to see another one of my friends who I haven't seen in 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, who's like his best friend as well, and he's really cool. It was just a great reunion. I invited him and my other friend to watch Ant-Man and the Wasp with me because no doubt Nate is going to get caught up in all the Marvel movies before Ant-Man and the Wasp comes out. So we're going to watch that together. It's going to be a blast. And I got 3 more friends coming back this week. One got back yesterday, so I'm going to see if I can visit him today. I try not to visit them the day they get back because, you know, they got to spend time with their families and, you know, got to let them adjust by seeing their families. But next day, though, you better watch out. I'm going to your house. I actually recently got a Facebook account. I had a Facebook account before, but I got another Facebook so that I could help promote my podcast that I'm going to be releasing. And so anyway, I was on Facebook, I was looking through it, and I saw that Nate had returned like 2 days ago. 2 days ago from when I read the Facebook, and I, like, minutes after I read that, I just went straight to his house and then spent like the rest of the night hanging out with him, and it was awesome. So I'm one of my friends, well, 2 of my friends this week. I have another friend named Nate who, if I'm not mistaken, he's gotten home probably hours ago, and he's probably spending time with his family now, and I'm going to visit him tomorrow. And I have another friend who I've known for like 8 years because we're pretty much neighbors. Brandon, he's one of the coolest people I've ever met, and he's coming back tomorrow, and I'm going to spend the day after just all with him. I'm so excited to see him again. Man, when your friends are gone doing something important for 2 years, you don't realize how much you missed them until they're gone. So I served a mission as well. I left about the same time as them, but I had to come back for mental health reasons, which I've discussed before. And so I didn't get to serve as long, but it was still a great experience. But anyway, so I've been home longer than all of them. And since all my buddies are gone and left about the same time I did, it's just me and then the few that have come back. And so now finally I get to see all my friends again. I'm so excited. It's going to be the greatest. Actually, something I want to talk about is editing these podcasts. Is pretty interesting, actually. You don't realize how much you say like and you know, and just like when you're talking to people, you don't realize how many times you say those kinds of things. And I was listening to it and I was thinking, man, this is so annoying how many times I'm saying and like how many mouth sounds come out, you know, like a I'm gonna leave that one in there just for demonstration. But you know, like the microphone I use is just clipped onto my shirt, so it's pretty close to my mouth, so it picks up a lot of those like weird sounds of like your lips coming together, or like, you know, like any mouth sound that you don't really notice when you're just talking to someone. Those happen a lot, and so I've been, instead of just recording and then uploading it directly, I've been editing the podcast so that there aren't any like awkward pauses or too many ums and ohs and whatever and like the mouth sounds. And I have this cool software I got for free called Audacity. It's actually really awesome. The only reason I knew about it is because I used it to narrate a video for my physics class, my junior year of high school. One of my friend Sammy showed it to me, and so I'm really grateful for that. Otherwise, I have no idea even what to do. And trust me, the first like these episodes would be so unpleasant to listen to if I didn't edit them or anything. So that's really quite a blessing that I knew about that before. It's really taken a lot of confidence to record another episode. I showed my family the first episode. I was thinking, or I was saying to them like, all right, so what'd you think of this episode? Should I keep going? And they were telling me, yeah, we really liked it. It was entertaining, engaging, and funny, and heartfelt, genuine. And so I thought, oh, that's really cool. That's kind of the feedback I was hoping to receive. By the time I'm recording this episode right now, I haven't published any of them. I think I'm gonna wait until I've made either this one or another one, like having 2 or 3 available, so that they can listen to a few and kind of get the idea of what they're gonna be like. So I haven't released any yet. I've been kind of hesitant to even release any, just because it's like I get so anxious about it, just like, oh boy, it's finally here. It's finally the time to release these episodes, and like how am I going to promote it? And like that's why I got a Facebook. Like, do I have to like post videos every day or something? Like I'm still figuring that out. But I think what I just need to do is just go for it. Just go ahead and publish it. And you know what? Once it's published, and then people get to listen to it, and then you get to add to it, respond to any feedback or criticism. You can figure out the system. You're just starting. One of my inspirations for doing a podcast, for several reasons, is Rhett and Link. I'm sure many people around my generation know who Rhett and Link are. They're these 2 guys from North Carolina who, they thought, let's go into the entertainment business. So they did some videos in their early career, but they started making this show on YouTube called Good Mythical Morning. It's probably one of the most famous YouTube channels on YouTube. It gets millions of views. I know they've been extras in movies. They've done a lot of music videos and stuff, and they started out pretty low budget. They just did their videos in one of their basements, and that was like several years ago. And now they've gotten to a point where they invite celebrities to the show, and it's you can tell the budget is a lot more significant, and they're pretty confident with what they do, and it's really cool to see how they started from just recording in this garage with like one guy on the camera and like doing all the audio and stuff, to having an entire crew. They have merchandise you can buy. They have their own studio. It's pretty fantastic. It's pretty phenomenal how they got there. And they also have this, they have a podcast as well called Ear Biscuits, which is really cool. I loved how they were able to just have a conversation with each other, and it flowed so naturally. Those 2 have been best friends for years, since like the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. And they just talk about things, really fun to listen to. And that kind of gave me the inspiration to start a podcast, because I loved how they did it, and it made me want to do it. It made me want to just share my thoughts, just be open, be vulnerable, and give me a way to stretch my comfort zone. Because one of my problems is that if anything has even a little bit of conflict, whether I be anxious about doing it or I'm unsure, whatever, I tend to move away from that, and that's not too uncommon. I feel like it's just human nature to lean away from like things that provide any sort of conflict, whether it be mental, that doesn't even make sense, mental or physical. And so this really is a way to stretch my comfort zone. I when I had a Facebook, I didn't post things very often just because I was afraid of what people would think, if by now you haven't figured out that a lot of my rationales for being anxious are completely not true. Like, if you haven't figured that out, then here you go. They're untrue. But anyway, what was I saying? There's my mind going blank again. But anyway, this podcast is going to be a way for me to stretch myself, and I'm really excited to do it, and see where it takes me. Maybe I can get a pretty big fan base. We'll see. But I'm just going to go for it. I went on a date with somebody that was just, I was telling him I was really nervous about all these things, nervous in life, how I was going to achieve certain goals like marriage and like a career and stuff. And my date just told me, like, just jump in, like, we're afraid to at first, like, the water's always cold, but the only way you're going to get used to it is if you just jump in and just swim in the water. And so that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to jump in feet first, because I'm not advanced enough to jump in head first, but I'm going to be in the water regardless. And it's going to be awesome growing experience for me. Hopefully you guys can benefit from it and grow in some sort of way from this podcast. But yes, this is going to be an awesome ride. I'm glad that you guys are a part of it. Something funny that happened at work the other day is, as I've said before, I'm a janitor, a custodian at a elementary school, and I work with a lot of guys that also help me with the cleaning and stuff. And so we're all pretty good. We're pretty good friends. We all talk about things, and we're all interested in very similar things. And they were just, I think somebody was talking about zombies or something. And then we got on the topic of like the apocalypse, like kind of like a Walking Dead scenario. I've never seen that show personally because I'm not into that kind of entertainment. But we were talking about like how the elementary school would be like one of the best places to be in the zombie apocalypse, because it's filled with resources we could use. We got a lot of the teachers' classrooms have food in them. We could scavenge around. We have some machinery in this garage at the school that we could use. We could repurpose like a lawnmower to become like this vehicle we could ride around the city during the day, because the zombies only come at night in this scenario, because this is like an I Am Legend situation where you can be out during the day, but at night you want to protect yourself. And so we could barricade the building, there's a lot of entrances and windows, but we could fix that, barbed wire, traps. A teacher's stool in the classroom broke, and so we dismantled it. And a lot of the legs for the stool, they looked like perfect bases for crafting a weapon. Like, we could sharpen it, make like a spear, or attach a knife on it, and like, we could use that. We have these vacuums that look kind of like the Ghostbuster vacuums or whatever that they use to get rid of the ghosts. I've never seen Ghostbusters personally. We could repurpose those to like shoot projectiles at the zombies. And it became this really, really fun, creative think tank between the four of us. We just started thinking of like who would be in charge of what. One of our coworkers lives fairly close, and there's a garden there, so we could scavenge that, get resources from there, maybe make an indoor garden. We could just make all of these security measures, traps, barricades. We could drive around during the day and like scavenge, and it'd be kind of like that game they have now, Fortnite or whatever, where you can like go around, you have to find stuff, and we can use that. And oh man, it sounded like such a fun scenario. It's like we should create zombies just so we can be in that situation. Which obviously I wouldn't do it just for that, but it is mildly tempting. But it was a really fun conversation. These guys, they'd be great. I know these guys would have my back. They wouldn't let me die for their own survival. Like it'd be so fun to like look out for each other. Anyway, I think living in the zombie apocalypse could be a lot of fun if you're prepared. So that's one perspective on that. Going back to confidence, I guess that'll be like the virtue I talk about today. Something I don't really plan too much. what I'm going to talk about in these episodes. I kind of just write. I have a paper in front of me. I don't know if you could hear the crinkling of that paper. I just write a few words on it of things I want to talk about. Like I wrote Legos. I haven't even talked about Legos yet. That'll be something I'll talk about. I wrote friends coming back, apocalypse, Kiroms and Qmoms in parentheses. What were they? Confidence, Indy-Skull, Facebook, like all these things. And so that way I just have a general direction. Just because I feel like the best kind of conversations, I know this isn't really much of a conversation just because it's me spewing words, but like the best dialogue, the best thing you can listen to is somebody being genuine, just the words coming out just because that's what they thought. That's what they had to say. It wasn't any special speech that was, amped up because it was reviewed and, edited. I mean, although those can be very powerful and moving and compelling, I feel like for me personally, the best way to get what I want to say across is in a very candid, spontaneous, and genuine fashion. And that's that's what these episodes are going to be like. It's just me going, and whatever I have to say, that's what's going to come out. And if you're into that, that is awesome. Anyway, back to confidence. Confidence is not something that everybody gets all the time. A lot of people, you feel like they're just born with confidence. They have everything together. They're proactive. They go and do things. Nothing gets in their way. I have a friend who I look up to for being proactive. His name is Brian. He's very proactive. If something needs to be done, he goes and does it. He doesn't worry too much about his skill level. He just tries his best. And, if he succeeds at it, fantastic. If he doesn't, whatever, he did his best. And that's what's important. I was in the chamber choir with Brian in high school. And, the chamber choir, it's like the madrigals. I'm sure that's another name for it. It's like the top choir. You have to audition for it. And one of the things that our teacher, Mrs. Warby, taught us was that confidence is key. Like if you appear confident, even if you don't feel confident, that will affect your performance dramatically. And I know that's true because I witnessed that. I went to several chamber tryouts and I saw the stark contrast between those that were confident and those that were not nearly as confident. And Brian, the first year he tried out for it, he wasn't as confident. Granted, the year prior was his first year in choir. That probably contributed to why he didn't make it the first year, but he also wasn't as confident. Then the second time he tried, he was a lot more confident, and his performance also improved, and I'm sure being in choir for another year helped as well. But I know that also being confident, it helped ensure his victory, getting into the chamber choir. And there's a lot of factors into getting into the choir, if your voice blends with everyone else, because you can be really amazing. I had a friend that was really amazing, but she didn't get in just because her voice just didn't blend with the choir. And it wasn't because she was bad or wasn't confident, but it just didn't work out for the choir. But anyway, and so, yeah, Brian, he made it the second year. And I remember telling him, like, you seemed so much more confident this time around. And that definitely helped you to get in. And I guess as a general rule, if you appear confident, people will, they'll want to be around you. They'll want to, and I don't mean confident like cocky, like, yeah, that's right, I could totally beat you at football or whatever sport, I mean, I think the way to truly be confident, is to be humble. And the way to truly be humble is to be confident. And I'll explain what I mean by that. There's a lot of celebrities out there, they do a good job on the screen, like they're really good actors or whatever, or they're really good at music. But you just see them and they appear, they kind of have like this cocky swagger about them. They kind of just feel like the world revolves around them. Like they're so good at what they do that like they're superior in a way. And that's cockiness, and that's not what you want to be. But you don't want to be self-deprecating where you doubt yourself. And this is something I need to work on. It's not be self-deprecating. I need to work on not putting myself too low, like saying like, oh, I'm not good enough because I'm just not good at this, or like I could never be good at this, just because I stink. Like putting yourself down, that's not being humble. That's being damaging to yourself. When you're humble, you recognize your talents, and simultaneously you recognize your limitations, and you recognize that although you may be really good at something, that doesn't mean that you're the best or that you're better than somebody because they're not as good as you. And that's what makes a person confident versus cocky, is that they don't let their talents alter their how do I say, like they don't let their abilities alter the way they treat people in a negative way, that way. And so, like doing this podcast, a lot of people have told me that I have a voice that is, it would be good for like a radio show, or like I should do a voice in like a Pixar movie, which, hey, Pixar, if you're listening to this and you have any openings for like a deep voiced young whelp, I am all for that. But anyway, a lot of people told me that, and I was in the top choir for 2 years, and it was a really great experience. And I wasn't as humble as I needed to be, not in the sense that I was prideful, but I doubted myself a lot. I thought maybe the teacher made a mistake for putting me in just because I don't feel that good, or it was like I wasn't trusting my director that they made the right choice about me, which A, lowers my faith in them, and B, lowers my faith in myself. And over time, I've learned to accept that I'm probably pretty talented. I'm not going to say probably. See, I'm trying to do it again. You just have to be completely straightforward with yourself. You just got to say it how it is. I've learned, well, I'm still learning, but I'm learning to say that, I'm talented at this one thing, and that's cool. I'm going to use my talents to help other people. I'm not a better person than other people because I have this talent and they don't. They're awesome, and they're just as awesome as me, even though they don't have this particular talent that I do, and vice versa. They might have these talents that I don't have, and we're both really awesome people. And I can be happy with that, I can be happy with the abilities and skills that I have. And I can be happy that I'm at the point where I am with them. I'll constantly try to improve them, not so I can be better than somebody, but so that I can better myself, and so that I can better the ways I help people and serve people. And I can feel good about that. I'm confident. I'm confident in my ability to, be a good friend. A pretty good talent that I have is I know how people are feeling, even if it's not explicit in their outward emotions. I have a tendency to know what people are feeling on the inside. Not always, I'm certainly not perfect at that, but I'd say I'm pretty good at that. And I'm not better than anyone because of that. I don't have, like my value as a person isn't higher than anyone else's just because maybe I have these skills, but I try to use these talents and abilities to help other people. And that's a mindset I think everybody should have, is that, I'm good at this one thing, and I'm going to help these people through these talents I have. And they're not less because I'm the one helping them, and I'm not more because I have these skills and they don't. I feel like I'm kind of just saying what I've been saying, but that's the point I'm trying to get across, is like the difference between being cocky, confident, and like self-deprecating. Yeah, all this ties into my podcast. I'm trying to, get the confidence to just do it, jump in the water, as I said earlier. Don't be afraid of what people think, sound confident, sound like you just want to have this conversation, and people want to listen because, you sound like you're on top of things, you sound like you've got it together and that you just want to go. You just want to go and share your thoughts, and you don't care what people will think. Kind of like one of my friends, Ben, he's really awesome. He told me once that like his way of being confident is kind of like giving the world the middle finger, which I don't condone. actually giving people the middle finger. You should never flip the bird. That's disrespectful, and I don't condone that. But I see what he's saying, though. It's like your way of showing the world, it doesn't matter how you define what your definition of me is, because I'm going to show you that I think I'm awesome, and that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what the world tells me. I will, as Peggy Carter says, I will plant my feet like a tree and say, no, you move. Anyway, yeah, that's what I have to say about being confident. Something that goes with being confident also is sometimes, people, as I said before, people aren't just, not everyone is born with confidence in their spine. So a lot of people, I know I have a few friends, who, they're unsure of themselves. They don't think too highly of themselves. And that leaves it up to us who know how truly awesome they are. And we need to tell them. We need to, we shouldn't butter them up, like if it's getting to a point where they're being cocky, don't do that. But I'm saying, like, tell them their strengths, tell them what they're good at. Let them know how much you care about them and how much other people care about them and how important and valuable they are. I think one reason for many suicides that happen is people, they just feel like they're not important. They feel like they're a burden on other people, that their skills aren't good enough to amount to anything. And none of that is true. Everybody has the ability to amount to something. Everybody is valuable. Everybody is important. And, so I'm going to be honest, sometimes I get down, I see my friends and they have these awesome skills. Things are just working out for them great in life. They're in a relationship, they're married now, or whatever it is. I'll look at that and be like, oh, man, I stink because I don't have those things. And that's not true. Maybe it's just not your time to get those things yet. That doesn't mean you're a bad person and that you shouldn't feel good about yourself. So what I'm getting at is that if you have people that you know in your life that are struggling with feeling like their efforts are good enough or like their skills are good, genuinely tell them how you feel, how that they are good at what they do. Or, don't lie to them. If they're really bad at singing, don't tell them they're good because you shouldn't lie just to make them feel better. Anything that you should tell your friends or anyone you love should be from the heart. It should be genuine. It should be true. You should only speak truth, Tell your friends how much you love them, and that no matter where their skill level is at for a particular thing, that doesn't change their worth at all, because their worth will always be infinite and priceless, indefinite. Like, everybody is important. Everybody deserves to be loved. Obviously, if people are making bad decisions, you should still love them. You shouldn't condone their actions. That's not love. That's undeserving tolerance. But everybody deserves to be told that they are awesome. And everybody has talents. It's true. Everybody has a talent. Even if you don't feel like you do, you do. And more often than not, it's more obvious to other people than it is for ourselves. There are many instances in my life where, I didn't feel too good about something, but other people told me, like many other people told me I was good at something. Like I would speak in church or something and I felt like it went okay, but people came to me afterwards and they said, your talk was just really awesome and I want a copy of it. And that just blew my mind. Like, what do you mean you want a copy of it? That wasn't that great. So our own perception of ourselves can be a little askew sometimes. And so that's why it's important to have good friends that can honestly tell you how things are, and how much they love you and care about you and how good you are at what you do. And that can help us all in gaining confidence we need. Confidence really does, a lot of it can really come from what people tell us. We shouldn't base all of our worth on what people say, because if we're just surrounded by people that say bad things about us, that's not going to end well at all. But we as brothers and sisters around the world, we need to encourage each other. We need to strengthen each other, build each other up, and the world will be a better place if we help each other. And confidence doesn't come in everybody, as I've said many times so far. Some people, they don't express their confidence or courage in ways like everyone else. Like maybe they're not as vocal about it, you know? Personally, when I get excited about something, I typically don't get up, start dancing around and shouting. I'm very quiet about it. It's on the inside. Another thing about me is I'm not afraid to stand up and say, hey, what you're saying is wrong. You know, like there's a lot of political things going on today that I'm not going to talk about politics really, because that's not what I want this podcast to be. But I mean, there's one issue in the world that is, I mean, it's obviously wrong. You know, the abortion argument. Obviously, that's wrong. You know, the murdering of children isn't okay. You know, and I'm not afraid to, if I hear people saying that, I'll turn to them and say, hey, look, if you think that abortion is okay, then you're crazy, because the murdering of children is not okay. And I don't mean to get political. That's just one example of a way that I show, like I express myself. And so just you can be confident and be silently confident. You don't need to go around strutting your stuff and saying, oh yeah, I'm good at this thing and no one's going to tell me different. And you know, that can be good or bad. That's just not everybody. So I guess the bottom line, even if you're not that confident in yourself, don't let that take away from your self-esteem. Because honestly, I'm not that confident that I could run for very far. You know, I don't have the best set of lungs. I couldn't run that far. That's another thing about being confident, is knowing your limits. You know, a lot of being not confident is being unsure, I think, being fearful, you know, anxious. And if we can overcome those things, we can accomplish a lot more. And that's something I'm trying to learn in life, is being more sure of myself. Having that hope that, you know, even if things don't go the way I want, whatever, you know, it's going to work out, and I have the confidence that I can move forward and be happy. Hopefully that didn't feel too scatterbrained. I'm kind of just saying my thoughts. Yeah, those are my 2 cents. Hopefully you're all the richer for it. That would be 4 cents now, since this is the second episode. I'm not going to keep track, just because, not keep track of the cents. I'll keep track of the episodes. That'd be so unprofessional. I like skip a number. But anyway, thank you for listening. I'm planning on having a guest on this podcast for the next episode, so stay tuned for that. I'm